Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we're starting a series for the game Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars, the Director's Cut. So this is a moderately old point-click adventure game. It is one of the games that you can run if you have the game files in the Scum VM emulator. Although, getting it on Steam, it does come with its own launcher, which might actually be a little bit of a shame, because if you go to full screen as it is, it cuts off the back button here. At least it does at 1080p. Also, you may notice the graphics aren't going to be majorly improved, so you then have to play it in a window. You could play it in augmented, where it just, I assume, scales up to 2 times the pixels, maybe 4 times the pixels on the resolution. I'm pretty sure if you played it in Scum VM, you could get it in full screen and not have that cutoff. But this also means that the launcher and the program running it will respond probably a little bit better, because it's a custom engine running this instead of an emulator that plays multiple games. You would hope that would be the case. And this is the Steam version I want to cover, so we'll live with it as it is. Also, you have audio here, and I never understand why the default audio settings of games do this. If this is the artist's intent, to have the sound effects at this point, music at this point, and speech volume at this point, then it should be balanced and normalized to that internally, and then all the volume markers should be at 50%. That way you start the game, if somebody wants more sound effects above what the artist's intent is, they have everything from 51 to 100. If they want less sound effects, they have everything from 49 to 0. Same for music, same for speech. If you do it like this, which is kind of lazy, this means I have less of a range to turn down music and more of a range to turn up music, and way more of a range to turn down speech, but way less of a range to turn up speech. So I don't know why they do this. It's simply out of laziness. There is the flag here that you may not realize is the languages. You could play this in English, UK English flag here, and several other languages, or the United States English for subtitled text language, and for spoken languages you have just UK English and several other languages. I guess you have to recognize your own flag though, because there's no hover here, so this is French, I could probably guess, and I would suspect this is Denmark, but is this Norway? Is this Italy? Who knows? I guess it doesn't matter. If I don't know the flag, I guess I shouldn't bother with the language. And that's really all the settings, so we can just jump into the game now. Sorry if it took us long.
Paris, city of love, romance, and dreams. So they say. I used to say it too. But ever since that day, the day of the murder, I've always associated my beloved Paris with death.
So the company that made the Broken Sword series, there's 5 of them, is Revolution. And they really have only made Broken Sword games. But they're very good. And they've been doing it for years. They haven't made a new one in a while. Charles Cecil here is probably one of the major factors. In fact, I believe another company hired him, or was it someone else that worked on Broken Sword, to write for their own game, even though it's not for his own company that he works for. But that's, I suppose, I kind of wish that happened more. If we could hire, like, Shigeru Miyamoto, writer of the Mario Brothers game,
I
to
was
make
at
other
home having
games.
a bath when my editor called.
That would be really cool.
Collard, get your ass over to the Palais Royale now. You got an interview. With Pierre Carchon. Yes, the Pierre Carchon. No photos, so leave your gear at home. He asked for you personally. Don't ask me why. Anyhow, this could be big, so if he makes a pass, don't forget. Just smile, say yes, and keep taking notes.
So charming and so very apt. Pierre Carchon was a media king, a national hero, and one of the most infamous adulterers in Europe. He and his wife Imelda were just one step down from royalty. Whoa, I hate mimes, but unless you humor them, they don't go away. Here I was, the palace of the Media King and the Ice Queen. I pressed the doorbell and set in motion a chain of events which would change my life forever.
Yes? What is it?
Madame, my name is Nico Collard. I'm here to see Monsieur Carchon.
Come up, we're on the first floor.
Madame Carchon, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, I'm sure.
The Ice Queen was certainly living up to her reputation. Will you be staying for the interview?
Mademoiselle, I know little of my husband's business affairs, and I care even less. I certainly have no intention of watching him pore over yet another pretty little journalist.
Pretty. You're too kind, madame.
The talented and very beautiful Mademoiselle Collard. Such a pleasure to meet you at last.
Monsieur Carchon, I am honored.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Call me Pierre, please. But I do not flatter you idly. I was a friend of your father. He was a great man.
My father, he never mentioned.
He and I were very close. And then his death. So tragic. I must... Imelda, your damned cat's in my study again. Another Ming vase, I suppose. Excuse me for one moment, my dear girl.
You journalists are getting younger each year.
Perhaps it's the rest of the world getting older, madame.
It's very weird the skin tone
That
changes
was no cat.
based on the focus, the zooms
What?
versus the main
Monsieur
cat.
Carchon!
He's dead. I must call the police. You'd better stay here.
There was a man. It was the mime. Do you think he...
Well, I believe we can rule out suicide, don't you?
No wonder they called her the Ice Queen. She would have been top of my list of suspects if I hadn't seen the attacker myself. And if I hadn't come across a couple of murders just like this already. One of the most important men in Europe murdered. And here was I, Nico Collard, alone at the scene of the crime. Should I wait for the cops? Or start my own investigation? It was a no-brainer.
So, what's interesting here is the fact that the subtitles didn't work at all in that. Did I not turn them on? So this is a point-click adventure game. The briefcase icon opens your inventory. The diary icon accesses your diary. The question marks gets you to puzzle hints. An interface helps. And the spanner icon to save and restore the game and adjust settings. So let's go to the spanner. And let's go back to this. And we have subtitles clearly on. By default, it just didn't show up in any of the cutscene. So. It seems like we've got a couple things we can click on with a nice interfaces when we hover over things, so we don't have to be too crazy, and we can walk out the door if we so choose to that too. Now, in point-and-click adventure games, usually you're not limited on the number of moves you can make, nor the time you can take, so it makes sense to click on things in a scale of increasing importance. So almost certainly there's nothing important on the bookcase, but let's look.
The bookcase was filled with obscure first editions.
Here's the subtitles finally working. Let's look at the bust.
A bust of Pierre Carchon, humble servant of La France.
Let's look at the body.
Mimes and guns don't usually go together, but I had an idea that this was no ordinary mime. I'd come across this murderer before, and written about him. The costume killer, at least that's what I'd called him.
So, we've got a couple of things we can pick up.
It was one of my hair clips. My favorite, in fact. It must have fallen when I was knocked down.
So at least I've removed evidence that implies it was me that killed him.
Some people hate searching corpses for clues. Me, I'm okay with it. Reminds me of an old boyfriend. In his pocket, I found a ticket stamped Bateau de la Conciergerie. Taking the ticket meant I tampered with the evidence. There was no going back now. Carchon had been shot.
Kind of an obvious statement. Sometimes you get obvious statements like that.
I closed his eyes. It was the least I could do for the poor fellow.
And see, this is totally not what you should do. Because we'll go back. You should completely not touch the body. Probably not leave the room either. Just kind of stand and do nothing until the police arrive.
Pierre Carchon again. His eyes seemed to follow me around the room.
He's got busts of himself everywhere. Let's see if we get the
A bust of Pierre Carchon.
No, it's the same response each time.
A small round piece of glass had been cut out of the pane. This was a professional job.
That's a little weird. You would cut the glass so high up. And certainly leaving plenty of evidence that's a professional job, which then doesn't implement her as the assassin.
I didn't want to
indicate
cut myself and leave blood on the glass. Call me old-fashioned, but I like to keep my DNA to myself. The killer must have used a ladder to reach the window. He was long gone. Guess he folded that ladder up, popped it in his pocket and took it with him.
So nothing to do out there, so we have to move on forward. We could look at our inventory. To use an inventory item on the background object, click on that item and then hold the mouse button. While continuing to hold the mouse button, drag it onto the hotspot. So, for instance, this could be used on that. Maybe? Nope. So we'll get around to doing that, and we can look at the diary here. This is actually everything that's happened up to this point, which it's not an incredibly large amount, but it's going to grow and grow as we continue playing.
The police could turn up at any minute. Somewhere there were clues to the murder, and I needed to find them.
So, what's this? A hole?
A medieval pageant. Original, no doubt. The tapestry must have cost a fortune.
It looks really nice. One of the factors in point-and-click games of this time and age, particularly now that we're playing at a modern resolutions, you're watching this on probably a cell phone or a computer at a high resolution, is items that could have been larger and had more detail just aren't animated that way. So we're looking here at this circle. Is there something actually on this table, or am I just going to look at the table?
A Louis XIV table with an antique cloth. Imelda had taste. But hey, with a husband that rich, taste is easy.
I don't see an actual cloth on the table, though. Here's a cloth on the table.
I reckoned that cloth might just turn out to be useful.
And here's something.
Even my fingernail wouldn't fit into such a small hole.
So, hair clip. Hardly picking a lock here.
Aha! Nico, you are just so damn good at this stuff.
And so we found
Instead
some
of
kind
comforting
thing.
Imelda, I was ransacking her flat. Why? Because there was something going on here, and I had to get answers before the cops arrived. And hey, she'd been rude to me, so she had it coming.
So she had it coming. Let's look at this painting.
Imelda had talent, but I certainly wasn't going to tell her that.
And take her
It was a tube of acrylic paint. French ultramarine. Just the color I was after for my bathroom.
I'm sorry, I have to go. Someone is...
Young lady, what are you doing? Oh, this paint.
Now the
It's my
subtitles are
favorite
working.
color.
For God's sake, keep the damn stuff.
Her husband was just murdered, and let's see. So we could go out the door. We could talk to her. We could also maybe find a different door. It feels like there should be a second door here. Yes.
The door was locked.
So let's see if this key, which is rather a strange key, unlocks
A
it.
modern key on an antique door. It wasn't going to work.
Darn. So we'll see if maybe this will work.
It was going to take more than a hair clip to open the door. I needed the key.
And so, is there some kind of lock in this place? I guess not. At least not from what we can see. Now, it's been a long time since I played this game, and this is the director's cut, so it may have changed a little bit, too. And I may have never played this game. I may have played one of the many other Broken Swords games in the series. So, let's, I guess, talk to the girl and see what she has to say.
Excuse me, madame.
Yes?
So, you have dialogue choices via items. So, we could ask about the husband, we could ask about somebody else, and we can ask about a mime.
I am so sorry for your loss, madame.
No, you're not. You're a journalist. Journalists don't feel sorry.
Not true.
We shall see.
Then what's this one?
How did your husband know my father?
I
Your
have
father.
no idea.
You didn't know him? Pierre Collard.
Pierre knew a lot of people I didn't know, most of them women.
So, as we exhaust things, I guess they'll disappear.
Why would a mime want to kill your husband?
Pierre had plenty of enemies. Half the husbands in Paris for a start.
Why did your husband send for me? What did he want to discuss?
I have no idea. His business was his business.
He never told you anything.
No, and frankly, I preferred it that way. This is quite a scoop for you. I suppose you're already inventing the headlines.
Just because I am a journalist.
Don't patronize me. You're all cut from the same cloth. Do you have any moral sense at all?
Ouch. That is ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. what's interesting here is the lips aren't moving on the conversations, but the eyes are blinking. So they've gone a little cheap on the animations, but this game is old enough that you probably couldn't really afford to do lip flaps. Well, you could, but a lot of games certainly didn't do it, and it wasn't really a requirement back in the day. So I can either be an angel or a devil here. Let's be an angel.
Yes, that's why I do this job.
You do it to see your name in print.
As if. My editor gets the byline, I just do the work.
Well, don't expect my sympathy.
The police will be here soon, madame. Is there anybody you would like me to contact? Family, friends?
No, I have no family. Pierre and I were... He was all I had, really. Not much, was it? The dutiful wife. That was my role. He never talked, never let me in.
I know one thing, madame.
What?
If you want to find out who killed your husband, then you let me do the job, not the police.
Why? How do I know I can trust you?
So again, we can be an angel, devil. I suspect heavily these answers don't really matter. There's no like Steam achievements or anything like that, and I don't think there's even multiple endings. So I would continue to be the angel in this case, or at least try.
Your husband invited me here today because he needed me. I think he knew somebody wanted to kill him, and he knew I could help.
I doubt it was your database he was after.
You're wrong. I was onto his killers already, I am sure of it. Please, you owe it to him.
I don't know.
All I need is a few more minutes to look around before the police come.
You really do have a moral sense, don't you? I trust so few people. And perhaps Pierre really
It's kind
did
of weird.
think that
Her
you could
lips
help.
are
Of
actually
course it
moving
wouldn't have
in
stopped
the
him
background.
seducing you too. Here, take this. It's the key to the drawing room next to the library at the end of the hall. It was Pierre's room. I rarely went in there. I couldn't. I was too scared of what I might find.
But there's... It's so strange.
Thank you.
The
I promise you won't
characters
regret
are
this.
tan, practically orange here. But then they're pale white in the zoom. Upward. And I don't think it's a limitation of colors because we have a bright, colorful pictures happening here. It's just an odd artistic choice, I suppose. We could look at the phone.
There was no one I needed to phone. Not until I had solved this case.
So we can't do that. And we could ask her about items too. I
Madame
think.
Carchon,
Please call me Imelda. We hardly need the formalities now, do we?
So asking about our father probably doesn't matter too much. Asking about this item and this item are the real important things. And I want to play here kind of intelligently. So while I might ask about this piece of cloth, asking about the paint, asking about the hairpin, kind of pointless, kind of dumb, just gonna get us a sarcastic response or a non-response.
would you like to see my favorite hair clip?
What a ridiculous question. Of course not.
See,
Another time, I guess.
it's kind of pointless to do that.
Thank you. You have your own reason for taking the cloth. Please keep it.
But the important objects will obviously give us some new information, hopefully.
So, her husband took secret boat trips. Did she really need to see the ticket?
So she's morally objecting and refusing to show the ticket to her anyways. Let's ask her about this.
Imelda might not have been so cool with me poking around if I'd shown her the key I'd found.
And so she won't let me show that either.
I needed to open the drawing room door before giving Imelda back the key.
And sometimes clicking on an item may be the adverb of giving. Sometimes it may be just asking about the object.
The last thing she needed to talk about was paint.
So none of those objects matter. And then I guess I could ask about my father
Did
again.
Monsieur Carchon say nothing to you about my father?
No, I'm sorry. He never mentioned him.
The fact that pops back up
I was sure that there
probably
was more to
implies I'm
find.
going to find some
I
evidence that
just
she
had
does
to keep looking.
know. But she either doesn't remember or she's withholding. And the new sentence here for all those actions that has been added. And slowly this will fill out. I wouldn't be surprised if we're somewhere around 30 pages when all is said and done with this game, of a decent, easy enough to read game. And then here we can save and just type in the number 1, and then that will save successfully. And then if we were going to restore, then we now have 21 minutes of gameplay and 3% of the game is complete. So it's not going to be an incredibly long series, but it will be an interesting one, and it will be an interesting tale. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I end my episodes the same way. I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. All that helps me with YouTube, tells them that my videos are worth watching. If you want to support me further than that, you can go to my main YouTube page. On the right there's a button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. Also on my main YouTube page is the subscribe button and the bell you need to click to get notifications for every video that comes out on my channel. And there's a playlist tab that has a playlist for every game I've ever covered, so go check those out. And I've covered a lot of games. I'm sure you can find some that will interest you. Finally, down below in the description box I have links to all my social media sites, so please follow and friend me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+. You can also friend me on Steam and Battle.net. That helps me with those services and lets you have a backup of when where I can notify you when new videos come out. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.